All right, Eagles fans. This is Shawn Cressman. I am the Bald Eagle. Welcome to my podcast, the Bald Eagle Podcast, special edition. Every Sunday morning, if we have a Sunday game, every Monday evening before our Monday night games, and every Thursday evening before our Thursday night games, you will see a game preview. Now, you're seeing this game preview just to give you a heads up on some of the things that are going on with the game today, starters, injuries, all that stuff. But we have some basic stuff. Now, number one, it's 100% Philadelphia Eagles podcast. I guess I should say 99%, right? Because 1% is spent on other NFC East teams, and we do talk a little bit about other NFL things if it affects the Eagles. So 99% Philadelphia Eagles. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, first, I always start off. If you watch my show on Wednesdays at 6 p.m., you know that I have rules. I don't just go willy-nilly. I'm structured, right? And that's just who I am. So let's talk about my 3 rules, just so you know what you're getting into by watching or listening to the Bald Eagle podcast. Number 1, you will not hear anything about politics at all. In fact, zero politics on this show specifically, because we're not going to talk about COVID, even though I guess I technically did, right? So no politics. This is your oasis. This is your little safe space, if you will, to avoid anything political. So we don't talk about that shit at all. Now, the only exception would be is if it affects the game. If in any way it would impact the game, we would talk about it. But so far, hasn't really, right? With the exception of COVID, and we're not going to talk about COVID today. Number 2, unlike a lot of the pregame shows you'll probably watch this afternoon, like Fox or CBS, I'm not going to say shit about the players' personal lives. I don't care if people buy Bobcats in the off season, if they have kids. I don't care if they donate to charity. I really don't care about any of that stuff, because all I care about is Eagles football. So the only way that I would talk about personal lives, including my own, is if it had some impact on the game. Now, I wish my personal life would have an impact on the game, but short of the meals that I eat, it doesn't, right? I have to eat wings or we'll lose. So if we lose, you can always blame me. I didn't eat my hot wings. But that's about it. No personal stories, no personal lives, none of that shit. Boring to me and not interest and nothing I want to hear of. And lastly, you've heard me curse a couple of times already. I'm not censored. So, I don't know if you care about your kids hearing curse words, I wouldn't have this show on. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about the schedule, right? You should know by now, but just in case, at 1 p.m. this afternoon, our first regular season game of the 2021 NFL season. We are in Atlanta. We play the Falcons, 1 p.m. on Fox. We had a great Thursday night game. Could have been a little bit better. The Cowboys could have looked worse, but because they did look okay. The Cowgirls, I apologize. But they did lose. So that's the net positive, right? So they lost 31-29 to the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Excellent game, close game. Unfortunately, both teams played pretty well. On offense, at least. And it was a nail biter. Thank God they made that field goal, because it would have been real disappointing to have the Cowgirls go up 1-0 and beat the Bucs in the beginning of the season. So then the rest of the NFC East, we have the Chargers at the Washington football team at 1 p.m. and the Broncos at the Giants. That's a 4:25 start. Other 1 p.m. games, just to bring you some NFL news. The Jaguars are at the Texans at 1 p.m. Seahawks at the Colts. As a side note, Carson Wentz is supposed to start, which is excellent. We are on pace to have 3 first-round draft picks in next year's draft. The Jets are at the Panthers. Going to be an interesting reunion with Sam Darnold. Vikings at the Bengals with a healthy Joe Burrow. And the Vikings have their new quarterback. Cardinals at the Titans. 49ers at Lions. Steelers at Bills. Those are all the early 1 p.m. games, Eastern Standard Time, of course. The 4 p.m. games, you got the Browns at the Chiefs, which could be very good. Packers at Saints. I'm not a big fan. I don't know. Jameis Winston is gonna be interesting to see how he pans out over a long season. Had a good preseason, but it's going to see if he can resurrect his career. Dolphins at Patriots. Mac Jones is beginning, right? Sunday Night Football, 8 p.m. Bears at the Rams, and Monday Night Football, 8 p.m. Ravens at Raiders tomorrow night. Okay, so let's get to a quick game preview. First, let's talk about injuries, and this is something I hope that we're able to say every week. The Eagles really don't have any significant injuries, knock on wood. The 2 players that are out this game Let me get over my comments, see if anybody's commenting. By the way, if you have a chance, if you're watching live or listening live and you're on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you can watch me, including Instagram, go ahead and comment if you have any comments, make suggestions. We'll talk about it. This show isn't expected to be very long, so the comments might extend it, but I'm thinking like 20 minutes, half hour, just a quick preview, right? So injury report. Great news on the Eagles front. The only two players that are out are players we've expected to be out. Offensive lineman Landon Dickerson, rookie, second or third round draft pick. He's out with his knee injury. We've known that, but he is making good progress. He was a limited participant at practice on Friday. Same thing with safety Rodney McLeod. He's out with his knee injury that he's recovering from. He's also making good progress. Also limited participation at practice on Friday. Positive news about those guys, but we expected them to both be out. I mean, Rodney McLeod had hinted that he was trying to get back for week 1, but based on the timing of his injury and how long it takes for him to rehab, that was pretty unlikely. And then the only guy that had any injury designation, somewhat injury designation, was linebacker Davion Taylor, who's not starting anyway. He was questionable with a calf injury. However, he was a full participant at practice on Friday. So really no serious injuries to any key players. And same thing on the other side of the ball. And this is something I'm always hopeful for. I want everybody to be healthy. I want to beat people fair and square. And the Falcons don't have any injuries either. So that's something else that's good. They're healthy as well. So some game notes. We all know, or you should know by now, that we have a rookie head coach in Nick Sirianni. The Falcons also have a rookie head coach in Arthur Smith. This is the first time an Eagles rookie head coach has faced another rookie head coach in the season opener. Last time that happened was September 16th, 1973. The Eagles are 4-1 in season openers since 2016. Now, a lot of these stats, let me preview this. I've already talked about a couple, but let me just preface it all by saying a lot of these stats are especially when we get to rankings, are last year's stats. In addition, the 4-1 in season openers since 2016 is with completely different coaching staffs as well. Each coaching staff has its own set of procedures and ways to prepare for games and things like that. So this stuff doesn't really mean anything, right? Especially with two sets of rookie head coaches and coordinators and everything. So in any case, the Eagles are 4-1 in season openers since 2016. Let's hope that positive consistency rolls on. And across the board, the Falcons haven't won a season opener since 2017. So these numbers don't mean anything, but kind of interesting, right? Since 2000, the Eagles are 11-5 versus Atlanta. That's including playoff games. The total series records between the Eagles and Atlanta is 20-15-1 in favor of the Eagles. The last meeting, however, didn't go the way we had wanted. They beat us 24-20, and that was almost exactly 2 years ago, September 15th, 2019, and it was also a game in Atlanta. Since 2000, the Eagles are 97-43-1 on the road. Pretty good record. It's good for fourth best winning percentage in the NFL since 2000. 5.63 is the winning percentage. And on the other side, again, on the other side of the ball, the Falcons have not had a lot of luck since moving to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, their current home field in Atlanta. They are 14-18 at home, so they have a losing record at home, which is this is kind of sad. And even more drastic, last year they were 2-6 at home. Now, last year was the first year that there was no home field advantage as a total in the NFL. In fact, I think NFL home teams had a losing record. First time that has ever happened in the history of the NFL since they've been keeping records, of course. And that was, I would say, mostly debated because of the pandemic. Why is there is no home field advantage? Well, there's a slight home field advantage if you're traveling, but clearly not a significant traveling home field advantage if there's no fans, right? Fans make a clear difference. Okay, so a lot of talk about starters over the last few weeks, right? We've had a 2-week break since preseason. We didn't really even get to see a lot of our starters in preseason. There was, the last 2 preseason games, there were joint practices held, Jets and Patriots, right before we played them in preseason. And so I guess to fans' dismays, because we didn't get to see those joint practices, we didn't get to see a lot of our starters. And maybe that's on purpose, not because not to take away from fans, but to take away from other opponents, right? Opposing teams is what I was trying to say. So we don't know a lot about. We don't know as much as we'd like. I haven't seen nearly as much as I would like to have seen of our starters in the preseason. But here we go. Here's our starting offense. As far as I can tell, this is what's online everywhere. So of course, Jalen Hurts got the start. He's our starting quarterback. No questions. Flacco's second. Minshew is third. We all know we have one of the top running backs in the league in Miles Sanders. He is going to, of course, start at running back, backed up by Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell, which I'm excited to see him. Boston Scott, I was one of the first ones. I'm probably the only one that thought that Boston Scott might not make the final 53 in favor of Kenneth Gainwell and somebody new, because we know what Boston Scott can do. And it is mediocre, but and I guess you could look at that two ways. It's mediocre, which is better than nothing, but it's also mediocre, which means we don't have the potential for more, and I think we do in Gainwell. Anyway, starting running back Miles Sanders. We got co-starters at tight end according to the website. It says Zach Ertz / Dallas Goedert is starting. I don't know who's going to line up on the first play. That's officially the starter. I'm hopeful of Goddard, but they might start Ertz because of his. He is a great tight end. That's a great problem to have. Which tight end do we play? We have two starters, and a wide receiver. This is the most exciting position. For the season, this will be the most exciting position to watch and see how it develops. But of course, we have 10th overall pick Devonta Smith. Last year, not the most recent year, but 2020 draft, first round draft pick Jalen Reagor. And then the guy who's been making the most noise in our wide receiver back route, Quez Watkins, is the third wide receiver when we bring three. Because we run a lot of double tight ends, so that would take out one of those receivers. And our offensive line, completely healthy, knock on wood that they say that way. Jordan Mailata won the battle with Andre Dillard for left tackle. Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, the center, the solid guy, got some numbers on him. Brandon was healthy, and Lane Johnson. That is a solid top 10, top 5 offensive line. So let's pray that they can stay healthy. Let's pray they stay healthy throughout the game. Whatever they've been doing through the preseason and the offseason, it so far has been successful at avoiding major injuries. Let's hope it stays that way. And let's hope they're dominant, because I think that's going to be, those last two positions, wide receiver and offensive line, I think are our most questionable, and can be, the most powerful, right? The offensive line, if it stays solid, gives, Hurts a lot of time, opens up holes for Sanders, that relieves a lot of pressure on the wide receivers and on Hurts, our second year starting quarterback. Defense. I'm actually I'm excited when I look at some of these starters and the potential we have. Our defensive line, I think, is going to be dominant this year. Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Derek Barnett. Now, Derek Barnett is co-starting with Josh Sweat, because last year Josh Sweat was in a fraction of the plays and made significant plays. I don't know if it's the same word again, right? But made a big difference in the handful of plays he was in. Didn't get a lot of time because he spelled starters, but made plays. Don't forget, we also have Ryan Kerrigan, who, a thumb injury, really not that big of a deal. I think he might have some tape on it or something, but we're talking about a veteran that's been known to pressure people, knows what he's doing, has a whole arsenal of moves. I think that can be a very aggressive defensive line. Linebacker, I feel like we're a little weak. Jannard Avery is by far the weakest man. Alex Singleton, great tackler, but struggled a little bit in the pass coverage last year. And then we got Eric Wilson, who did better in pass coverage last year, but struggled somewhat with missed tackles. So, a more complete linebacking core, but again, one of the weaknesses on our team. Corner, we have Darius Slay, Steve Nelson, and then we have Avonte Maddox in there if we bring in 3. Avonte, with a weak man, clearly, in the secondary. Darius Slay, one of our top covermen. Steven Nelson coming over from Pittsburgh should be able to shore up our corners. And then at safety, we mentioned McLeod is out due to his knee injury. Let's hope. We had Kayvon Wallace in a little bit last year, and he is going to start at free safety. Let's hope that. I'm sorry. He is going to start. I don't know if he's free or strong. I apologize. But Kayvon Wallace is going to start, I believe, free safety, and Anthony Harris is our strong safety. I'm hoping Kayvon brings the heat. I'm hoping Kayvon is able to make that step. They always say that the biggest step when it comes to rookies is between year 1 and year 2. That's the biggest improvement. Year 1, they're learning everything. They're struggling to keep up. And year 2, things start to slow down, and that they are able to read defenses better, or read offenses. If we're talking about Kayvon, they know where they're supposed to be more naturally. They don't have to think about it, and they can react to the ball. So let's hope that Kayvon turns out to be a solid safety for us. And then coach Anthony Harris. So if we look at those, that lineup, right? A lot of strength I think on the offensive side, and on the line, both defense and offense, right? Real solid. A little weakness when it comes to our secondary and linebackers. That's probably our weak spot, and that's not going to, play very well against, a a great passing team and Matt Ryan. And, of course, they don't have Julio Jones, but they have Calvin Ridley, right? So who's had 1,000 yards, I think, the last 3 years in a row. So we're not like they lost the best, but they still have some great guys back there. So speaking of some of our players, Miles Sanders, since entering the league in 2019, he is fourth in the NFL in rushing yards per carry. Again, in my opinion, Miles Sanders is one of the top 5 running backs in the league. If he gets more plays, I think he could be more solid. He could have 1,000-yard seasons. Last year, when we leaned on him in a few games, he did well and we controlled the game. For some reason, we decided to opt out of that. I don't know why, but in any case, fourth in the NFL in rushing yards per carry since he came into the league with 4.9. Number one's Nick Chubb with 5.3, Derrick Henry number 2 with 5.2, and Aaron Jones number 3 with 5 yards per carry. He's also fourth in the NFL in scrimmage yards per touch with 5.7. Number 1 is Austin Eckler, 6.3, 2 Alvin Kamara, 5.8, and 3 Christian McCaffrey, 5.8. Jason Kelce has started 105 consecutive regular season games. That's currently the longest streak among NFL centers, and it's the longest ever since Chris Myers played 123 consecutive games from 2007 to 2014. And I mentioned earlier that the Falcons will not have Julio Jones. This is the first time since 2010 that they won't have Julio Jones. Not that there aren't other players, other players that will step up. So let's talk about team matchups or group matchups, right? So again, these are 2020 rankings, 2020 numbers. So a lot has changed for both teams. More so Eagles than anything, right? In reference to teams and structures and all that stuff. But let's just talk about it anyway. So last year, the Eagles offense was ranked 24th, tied for 24th, while the Falcons total defense was 29th. So somewhat of an advantage there, right? Not significant. And there's not a significant difference between most of these rankings, right? The Eagles rushing offense was ranked 9th, 126 yards per game. The Falcons rushing defense was 6th, 105 rushing yards per game. So relatively even, our offense rushing against their defense. Although I think we have the edge with Miles Sanders being healthy. The Eagles passing offense was ranked 28th, while the Falcons pass defense was ranked 32nd. This is where I think we have an opportunity to really move the rankings and make a difference, right? Our offense was 28th last year with a decimated defensive line, a group of subpar receivers, and a quarterback that made significant errors on his own in addition to those other issues. I think we've got a lot of that shored up. The Falcons, on the other hand, had struggled against the pass, last in the league against passing offenses. And they only made some slight changes, added two safety. So I think that's something definitely to watch. And I think that's where we have a big advantage in our passing offense against their passing defense. So look for us to, even though we are a good running team, and even though Miles Sanders is one of the top, I'm expecting us to throw often, especially if it's successful, because we know that that's their weakness. Now, our third down offense, ranked 28th, not very good. Their third down defense, 17th. That's something we're going to have to improve on. Third down proficiency is going to be important. Fourth down, we were 27th. Our offense, while their defense was 7th, another pretty significant difference. But hopefully, we're not going for it on fourth down often. Hopefully, on fourth down, the only time we go for it is when we're on the goal line. Otherwise, we're able to convert on those third downs. And red zone offense, we are ranked 15th, and their defense is ranked 7th. So again, make sure that we are able to utilize some of those bigger guys in the backfield, maybe throw a tight end in there to block, run, 2 tight end formations and goal line to make sure we get that ball in the end zone when we're in the red zone. The Falcons offense ranked 18th versus our defense ranked 19th. So pretty even there. Our the Falcons rushing offense ranked 27th. Our rushing defense ranked 23rd. So again, we're slightly better. And I think that is another thing that should improve with the addition of the exchange for Jannard Avery at linebacker and the addition of Eric Wilson. I think, the improved linebacking core should help significantly with our rush defense. Now, where I think there's going to be a significant difference, and there is in the numbers last year, and I think you're going to carry over this year, is the Falcons passing offense versus our passing defense. They were ranked, the Falcons passing offense was ranked 5th in the league last year. Matt Ryan is one of the best quarterbacks in the league as far as yards and touchdowns, struggles in the playoffs clearly, but pass defense struggled, especially when we were in zone. And I don't know that we're that much better in the secondary this year. What I think is going to bridge this gap, their offense being so much better than our pass defense, is our defensive line. I'm hopeful that those names that I mentioned on our defensive line, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat when he spells, right? Kerrigan when he spells, Hargrave. I hope they're able to get natural pressure with us not having to bring extra guys and put the pressure on Matt Ryan, make a couple of mistakes. So 1 or 2 turnovers can make a difference, and we'll talk about that too. The Falcons' third down offense, 10th. Our third down defense, 7th. Pretty similar. Here's a nice stat that I liked, right? The Falcons' fourth down offense, 14th, ranked 14th. Our fourth down defense ranked 3rd in the NFL last year. So that's a good metric. Our fourth down defense is important. That's when the other team's either going for it on the goal line, or they think they can make it because they're in the middle of the field. And that's a great time to get turnovers. And then our red zone defense and offense, their red zone offense 26, our red zone defense 26. So pretty poor on both ends of the ball. Hopefully, again, our additions to defense can improve. Now, I talked about this a lot last year, specific to Carson Wentz, really, and then of course to the whole team. But turnovers were a significant difference last year compared to previous years. Probably one of the biggest outliers when you compare. If you're going to go back to our Super Bowl year, right, which we'd all love to relive, and hopefully we do soon. But when you go back to that, one of the biggest standouts is turnovers. And of course, you hear this from everybody, but that's a significant stat, right? What's more impactful in a game other than giving the other team the ball when you didn't intend to, right? And giving them good field positions, right? So that's something we need to work on, and something we were horrible with last year. So our turnover differential was we gave away the ball 10 times more than we recovered it, right? So we're minus 10 in turnover differential. That was 29th in the league. So we weren't worse. There was 3 other teams that were worse. 3. But the Falcons were +3, and that was tied for 13th. So significantly better. We need to hold on to the ball, and we need to force the other team to turn it over. And that's where I'm really relying on our defensive line to put pressure on Matty Ice and cause errant throws or bad decisions. And lastly, penalties per game. And this is one I think will be significantly different, and I'm hoping will be significantly different, because this, penalties come down 100% to coaching. Last year, the Eagles were 30th for penalties for game 6, almost 7 penalties each game. But the Falcons were 9th with almost 5.2. So they had a solidly coached team. We were almost last as far as penalties a game. That's another thing we need to change. Again, something that can stall drives, right? You're 3rd and 3. And there's a hole, now you're 3rd and 13, right? Significant difference. Could take you out of a field goal range, right? And then penalty yards per game, we were 21st with 53, and the Falcons were 16 with 46 yards. So not a big difference on actual yards, but the amount of penalties is significant. All right, so let's talk about the matchups, right? So who to look out for. I mean, some of this stuff is obvious, right? If you've been paying attention to the Eagles, but if you haven't, maybe it's new to you. Everyone's going to be staring at Jalen Hurts. We're all going to, on Wednesday, when you watch the Bald Eagle podcast, there's going to be a in-depth play-by-play analysis, and Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the guys that I'm staring at. How's he going to play, right? Had a couple of solid games last year. Numbers didn't look that great, but if you dug down and you watch the podcast, did pretty well, right? Showed a lot of flashes and signs of elite quarterback skills. Let's see if he can continue that this year. See how he handles having all the snaps in preseason and having all the snaps in in training camp and all that stuff. So I'm going to see his progression, right? And then who's he throwing to? Our first overall number 10 Heisman winner Devonta Smith. How's he going to pan out? Is his size going to be an impact? Is he going to struggle to get off the ball, which was my concern. Everybody said he did well in training camp and preseason doing that. He ran good routes, but how's he going to do getting off the ball? How's he going to run routes against starting corners? Not the best passing defense, but at least starting NFL passing defenses. So it's going to be interesting to see that. Matt Ryan versus our secondary, right? We added a new corner in Steven Nelson. We added Anthony Harris, a new safety, right? Going to make a difference because we struggled, going into the draft or going into this offseason. Linebacker and corner was and wide receiver were our weakest positions. We addressed all of them in some aspect to or another, but how our success in those spots is gonna pan out is gonna be interesting to see. But our secondary versus Matt Ryan, who can pick apart defenses, and even more importantly, not just Matt Ryan in our secondary, but 4th overall draft pick tight end Kyle Pitts, huge guy, physically gifted, just a giant quick guy at tight end. How are we gonna do covering him? How are our linebackers going to end up if a linebacker covers Kyle Pitts, which we might not. We might bring in Avonte Maddox. That's going to be a struggle. So how do we line up against Kyle Pitts? I think it all comes down to our defensive line on defense. I think our secondary is going to struggle. I think Matt Ryan is a great quarterback. He's going to be able to find guys open. I think their receivers, Calvin Ridley's going to do well. I think Kyle Pitts is a giant guy who's going to, disrupt. He's tall. Who's the tallest corner we have? Was he 5'9", 5'10"? Kyle Pitts is, I think, 6'4". So there's some mismatches there. So I think our goal, and I mentioned this earlier, and our key to winning this game is our defensive line, right? Our defensive line need to get to Matt Ryan, cause turnovers, cause mistakes, to end drives, or to give us a short field on the other end. So that's going to be, I think, the key to the game. I mentioned it a couple times. Right? Eagles defensive line needs to pressure Matt Ryan, cause turnovers, and then I think that's our key to the game. So that brings me to the bald eagle. Wow, let me skip to the. I'll do the bald eagle prediction at the end, right? Well, we'll save the end for, the end for. We'll save the end for last, right? So the odds, just so you guys are aware, the Eagles are giving away 3 points, right? And the over under is 49. So that's what the odds are. So a pretty close game, 3 points. It's a field goal, right? The bald eagle prediction. Here we go. The defense line. I predict that the defensive line does pressure Ryan. I predict that they cause 1 or 2 turnovers, whether it be a sack, fumble. They put pressure on Ryan, an errant throw, and maybe one of our guys jumps a route. One way or another, I think we're able to grab a pick and or a sack, fumble, right? And I think because of that, we're able to win. I think Hurts has a solid game. I'm not saying I'm not saying he's going to light anything up. We might have a nice, great play by Watkins, because who are they going to key on? Watkins, Smith, or Rager, right? Or Miles Sanders coming out of the backfield. A lot of threats. So I think Hurts has a solid game. I think Sanders has a solid 100-yard game. Devonta Smith, I think he's got 80 or 90 yards, maybe 6 or 7 catches. And I think we're able to do a solid, have a solid game, turnover free, low penalties, no significant penalties. I think we win the game 24-17. I don't think it's a high scoring game, but I think we're able to pull it out. And I think the key again is going to be our defensive line, which I think forces turnovers. Okay. Do me a favor. Don't forget, Bald Eagle Podcast, Wednesdays at 6, full show. The thing that makes me unique, the reason you're going to want to watch and listen is because I do the most in-depth play-by-play analysis of the game. So on Wednesday, I'm going to go over, of course, this game against the Falcons. I'm going to go play-by-play. Let's all pray to the NFL gods that NFL Game Pass has the coach's view, because that's what makes it so detailed. But if not, I'm still going to do it off the broadcast. I'll still stare at the plays a couple of times and tell you what I think. So listen on Wednesday at 6, but don't just listen to me. Okay. Of course, you're gonna watch and listen to the Bald Eagle podcast because you're a diehard Eagles fan. But you're also gonna watch all your shows on PSA, our Philly Sports Alliance. Let me bring that up for you real quick before I go. All right. So on Mondays, you're gonna watch the football smock. Okay. It's Sunday morning. Give me a break, right? You're gonna watch Mondays at 6. You're gonna watch the Football Smack Talk show, featuring Ryan Reese and Eric Ward. That is an NFL show, but they talk more about the Eagles than anybody, but they talk about the whole NFL. On Mondays at 7:30, after that, you're going to watch the Diamond Club podcast. That is a Phillies baseball podcast featuring John Hunter, Chris Lahiff, and Danny Hart. Tuesday at 6:30, the Philly Broadcast, featuring Ryan Reese and Ryan Finnegan. That's all 4 sports, but all Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, and Phillies. Right. You're, of course, Wednesdays at 6. You're going to listen to the most in-depth play-by-play analysis of the Falcons game, 6 p.m. this Wednesday. After that, Wednesday at 8, you're going to watch Mixed. It's an all-football show featuring Eric Ward and Jay Landry. Thursday at 5:30, we got Tendies on Patterson, a Flyers show featuring Paul Baccio, Jack Griffin, and Chris Lahiff, all about the Flyers and the NHL. Thursday at 7 p.m., you're going to watch Table, Ladders, and Chairs. Watch or listen to Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. That is a wrestling show with Eric Ward and Joe Barry. And next Sunday at 11, you're going to listen to the Bald Eagle game game preview. Next Sunday at 11. So do me a favor, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. If you have any questions, comment, send me messages, interact however you want, and I'll respond. Follow me on Instagram, wave when I'm on, and go Birds.